Hey guys, and welcome back to part 2 of how I beat Skyrim using EVERY Daedric Artifact. Quick recap, I'm playing as a Dunmer named Drarayne Veloth, who worships every Daedric prince. His goal is to obtain every Daedric artifact in Skyrim, and to use only those artifacts in his grand adventures. So last time, I earned the Mask of Clavicus Vile, and I celebrated by going on a massive shopping spree. Okay, mostly a selling spree, but I did buy a lot of food as well to use for healing. Unfortunately for me, I had to cut my shopping and selling spree short, because while I was doing Clavicus Vile's quest, I got bitten by vampires, and I needed to cure myself. But I couldn't use a cure disease potion, and I absolutely refused to pray at an Daedric shrine. There was only one solution: hawk feathers. As every amateur alchemist knows, hawk feathers have a cure disease property, so all I needed to do was kill a hawk. Next, I decided to head to Riften, home of the Thieves Guild. I figured that Nocturnal, the Lady of Shadows, would be interested in the activities of thieves. At Riften, I met a smooth-talking Nord who wanted my help to pull off a simple heist. While he distracted the townspeople, I was supposed to steal a ring from the jeweler's stand and reverse pickpocket the piece into another merchant's pocket. Unfortunately, the safe containing the ring was locked. I tried pickpocketing the key from the jeweler, but I wasn't sneaky enough. I couldn't lockpick the safe because I didn't have the skeleton key. So I just left and took a nap at the Bee and Barb. When I returned, Brynjolf was, understandably, pretty upset with me. I thought I had missed my chance to join the guild, and wondered if I should have compromised my morals and just used a regular lockpick, when Brynjolf let me join anyways. For some reason, there were a bunch of random people living in the sewers who got mad when I walked in, but they were no match for me. Then Brynjolf gave me my first job as a thief: extort money from the local shopkeepers. I kinda thought my first job would involve, stealing something, but Brynjolf probably didn't want a repeat of our chance arrangement. Though I gotta say, I did enjoy threatening to destroy this lady's statue of Dibella. Take that, Aedra worshippers. I returned to Brynjolf with my pockets full of money. He was so pleased that he introduced me to the guild leader, Mercer, who sent me on another quest: rob the safe in Golden Glow Estate and burn 3 beehives. Wait, burn 3 beehives? With what magic? While I could probably use the Wabbajack, I decided to wait to see if I could obtain a different fiery artifact to use, specifically the Dawnbreaker. Unfortunately, I wasn't leveled enough yet to go questing for it, so I decided to try for a different artifact. So I journeyed to the shrine of Peryite in the mountains near Markarth. The tender of the shrine told me I could commune with the prince if I found all the ingredients for the summoning incense: a silver ingot, a deathbell flower, vampire dust, and a flawless ruby. Kesh made the incense and instructed me to inhale the suspicious green fumes. Then Peryite began speaking to me.
I have watched you for some time, you know. The decisions you've made intrigue me, and I wonder if you are the proper agent for a task of mine.
Apparently, it takes a while for a prince to manifest from oblivion, because he was talking for quite a while before his physical form finally appeared. Anyway, he wanted me to go kill one of his followers for their disobedience, which unfortunately meant that I needed to go dungeon crawling through a Dwemer ruin. Great. I love Dwemer ruins. I ran out of charges on my Wabajak and Volendrung, so my final battle against Orchindor was a struggle, to say the least. But I hadn't made it this far for nothing, so I slew that elf like the pathetic traitor he was. For all my troubles, Peryite gifted me the Spellbreaker, a beautiful shield that would protect me from physical and magical damage. Now it was time for the Dawnbreaker. I had heard from various bandits that Meridia had lost her beacon and that it was hidden in a chest somewhere. I hadn't been looting chests like I normally do, so I decided to cut out the guesswork and went straight to her shrine near Solitude.
Listen, hear me and obey. A foul darkness has seeped into my temple. A darkness that you will destroy.
All the bandits I talked to had said that Meridia had an obnoxiously loud voice. But she didn't sound any louder to me than the other princes. She told me exactly where her beacon was, and happily it turned out to be in a bandit cave that I had already cleared out. When I returned with the beacon, Meridia picked me up and took me into the sky. From this height, I could see all of the unrendered landscapes beneath me. She put me down and sent me inside her temple to slay the necromancer who had corrupted her artifact. Sounds familiar. Turns out, fighting undead creatures is a whole lot easier when you have a shield to absorb some of the damage. Who knew? However, even with the power of the Spellbreaker, I still couldn't survive a direct blast from the necromancer's ice storm. But like the Daedric champion that I am, I overcame each of these challenges, retrieved the Dawnbreaker, and pledged my soul to Meridia. I briefly wondered if there would be negative consequences to giving my soul to every prince, but I quickly pushed that from my mind as I looked at my shiny new sword. I returned to Riften and began my ultra-sneaky stealth mission inside Golden Glow Estate. I successfully evaded the guards wandering the house, while also taking every morsel of food that I could find. However, I ran into a small problem. In order to retrieve the key to the safe, I had to get past the novice lock on Arangoth's bedroom door. I briefly considered just picking it myself, but then I thought of the glorious skeleton key and decided against it. To get around my problem, I returned to Whiterun and hired Janassa, a Dunmer like myself, who had no qualms about breaking into houses, picking their pockets, and robbing their safes. Unfortunately, she wasn't quite as sneaky as me, which resulted in the deaths of many guards. I robbed the safe and found the estate's deed of sale. After a brief journey through some underground tunnels, Janassa and I returned to the outside world. I decided to let Janassa go for now, and she responded by getting right in my face and making suggestive talk about companionship. She then had the nerve to tell me to go away. Confused by these mixed signals, I made my way to the beehives. I unsheathed my beautiful sword, swung it at the beehives, and nothing happened. I thought this was strange, but undeterred, I then pulled out the Wabajak and again nothing happened. I ran from the guards while I tried to decide my next moves. I came up with the brilliant idea of using my ancestors' wrath to set the beehives on fire. At first I thought that using this power would be an inappropriate use of my ancestors' spiritual protection. But honestly, what are my ancestors even doing right now, huh? Guarding the ghost gate? Pfft, I'm sure they'll get a kick out of burning some beehives. So I called on my ancestors' wrath to set my skin on fire, and oh my word, these beehives will not burn. What do I have to do to get them to catch fire? So after using the Daedric power of asking Google, I learned that I needed to find a torch. Happily, I found such a torch in Ember Shard Mine. I returned to the bee farm, and the beehives finally recognized the torch in my hand as a source of fire and promptly burst into flames and smoke. Brynjolf then sent me to Maven Blackbriar on another job. She was super annoying, but at least she gave me an interesting quest. Sabotage some guy's new meadery. Simple enough. That is, until some random madman showed up out of nowhere and shot us full of magic. Who even is this guy? Anyways, I successfully poisoned the rats and the mead and retrieved the incriminating evidence for Maven. Maven didn't recognize the little symbol on the letter, so Mercer sent me to an Argonian informant who might have known something. After I gave him a case of firebrand wine that I obtained from the Blue Palace, the Argonian confirmed that he knew absolutely nothing and walked away. So, Janassa and I shadowed him. We were super quiet and very sneaky. In fact, he had no idea that we were right behind him the whole time. Before he got out of sight, I pickpocketed a key from him, which turned out to be the key to the very place he was going to. I don't know how he got in without the key, but that doesn't matter now. What does matter is that we snuck by the guards with the same grace and skill. Absolutely no one knew we were there. Except for that guard. And that one. And these bandits. But that doesn't matter. After we cornered Gumball, he finally admitted to working for Carlia. Whoever that was. Mercer seemed to know, and he took us on a field trip to Snowvale Sanctum to kill her. The door to the sanctum was locked, and Mercer decided to pull a huge power play on us by taking his good sweet time walking down the stairs before he finally unlocked the door. Now, being the experienced master thief that he is, Mercer let the guy who can't even lockpick walk in front of him throughout the whole dungeon. Great move, Mercer. And then suddenly I got shot with a poisoned arrow. I fell to the ground paralyzed. I was then treated to a Dutch angle view of Mercer and Carlia's plot twist of an encounter. Turns out, Carlia wasn't my enemy at all, and Mercer made the fatal mistake of aiming for my stomach instead of my head. He would pay dearly for his foolish choice. Luckily for me, Carlia was able to revive me, and she sent me on another grand adventure to find a translation for her dead boyfriend's journal. This adventure brought me back to the lovely city of Markarth, where I met Calcelmo, the leading expert on the Falmer language. Even though he refused to let me inside his museum, he still left the key to his museum just sitting on a table where anyone could take it. Clearly, he wanted me to disobey his wishes. Inside the museum, Janassa and I crept among the artifacts, the guards, and all of the Dwemer traps that absolutely no one bothered to disable. So I made it to Calcelmo's lab, made a charcoal rubbing of the Falmer Rosetta Stone, and then Janassa and I escaped down the secret path. Job well done. I presented it to Inthier, a wizard from the college. Turns out the journal was a recording of all of Mercer's crimes, and Carlia and I returned to the Thieves Guild to reveal the truth. Then the moment I had been waiting for finally arrived. Carlia invited me and Brynjolf to Nightingale Hall to pledge our souls to Nocturnal.
Ah, Carlia. I was wondering when I'd hear from you again. Lose something, did we?
Then we went dungeon crawling through Erkenthand to confront Mercer. Mercer tried to give himself a dramatic entrance, by collapsing the platform I was standing on, but I didn't even blink an eye as I peacefully descended. After his super lame villain speech, we engaged in our final battle. Mercer tried to turn himself invisible multiple times, but I could still see his shimmering form as we jumped around the idol. He perished under my flaming sword, and I retrieved the skeleton key from his inventory. But as soon as I had looted his corpse, the shrine began to flood. We three would have surely perished if it were not for Nocturnal's luck opening a path above the idol's head for us to escape through. Carlia also reminded me of my solemn responsibility to return the skeleton key to the Twilight Sepulchre, and I agreed to do it eventually. After all, Nocturnal is an immortal prince. She can wait while I have my fun. After several weeks of adventuring, I decided to relax at the Bannered Mare, where I was suddenly accosted by a man named Sam Guavine. He challenged me to a drinking contest, and I immediately accepted.
A few drinks, a few laughs, and a contest. What could be better?
After 3 drinks, my world went black. The next thing I knew, I was being rudely awakened by a snooty priestess of Dibella. She directed me to the little town of Rorikstead, where I began piecing together the events of my wild night with Sam. Some farmer was super mad that I stole his goat and gave it to a giant. No way was I going to take the goat back, so I just paid him off, and he directed me to Isolde and Whiterun. Apparently, I had gotten engaged last night and had purchased a wedding ring from Isolde. Wow, what a night. Unfortunately, Isolde had the audacity to demand that I return the ring to her if I had no intentions of getting married. Like, how insensitive can you get? So I tracked down my supposed fiancé, and wow. Seriously, who let this happen? Technically, I could have just paid for the ring, but there was no way I'd pay 2,000 gold for just one ring. So I threw the wedding ring back at Isolde's annoying face, and she finally told me that I talked about heading to Morvenskar, a dungeon crawling with conjurers and fire mages. I found a mysterious blue orb of magic that I entered without hesitation, and I found myself in a peaceful nighttime world. Tavern music filled the air. I followed the path and found Sam Guavine, who transformed before my very eyes into Sanguine, the Daedric Prince of wild parties. As a prize for all my wild adventuring, he gifted me the Sanguine Rose, a staff that summons a level Jamora to help me in my battles. Now that I had reached level 20, I chose to hit up Hulda for any interesting rumors. I asked her for every rumor she had inside her head, but the only useful one she gave me was one about a new museum in Dawnstar about the mythic Dawn cult. Excellent. Of course, what I really wanted was a rumor about Mephala, the Lady of Secrets. But as it turns out, Mephala isn't interested in heroes who haven't slain a dragon yet. So I journeyed to Dawnstar and met a guy wearing some old musty cult robes. He invited me inside his museum, which turned out to literally be his house, with 3 locked cases and some tattered banners. Silas must have been impressed by my array of Daedric artifacts, because he hired me on the spot to find the pieces of Mehrunes Razor. It was a pretty simple quest. I bribed Jorgen to give me the hilt, I killed Gunzel for the shards, and I killed Jaskua for the pommel. Easy peasy. Then Silas and I journeyed to the shrine of Mehrunes Dagon. I put my hands on his altar, and his voice boomed through my ears.
But Dagon does not declare a winner while there is a pawn on the board. Kill Silas. He and his family have served their purpose.
Well, it certainly wouldn't be the first time I'd killed a companion for a prince. And it sure wouldn't be the last. Pleased with my performance, Mehrunes Razor restored the Razor to its former glory. Then he immediately requested an encore and sent 2 Dremor to test my fighting skills. I defeated them with ease. Well, I had been planning to get the Ebony Blade and the Ebony Mail this episode, but unfortunately, I can't get to the blade until I complete Dragon Rising, and I'd have to level up 10 more times before I can get the mail, and I've already done way too much in this episode. So join me next time in part 3 when I finally get around to the main quest and obtain the final 3 artifacts. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Also, if you have any Skyrim challenges that you'd like to see me try, please do leave a comment. I can't promise that I'll do all of them, but I will consider them. Personally, I'm thinking about doing a restoration or alteration build next. I'll see you guys next time.